Alright, so now here is part 2 of my Batman Begins review. Enjoy. Okay, so in the last part we talked about how Bruce became Batman, and then once he became Batman, the first thing he did was took down Falcone. Now, I love how after he took down Falcone, he tied him to that giant skylight, and it became the bat signal. I found that really cool. Now let's move on to Rachel. So, Bruce is, childhood friend slash love interest in this movie is Rachel Dawes, played by Katie Holmes. Now, personally, I like Rachel in this movie better than the one Maggie Gyllenhaal plays in Dark Knight, because I think this Rachel comes across as a strong woman, whereas Maggie's Rachel just comes across as kind of bitchy. That's just kind of my opinion. Rachel and Bruce were childhood friends. She's kind of seeing this guy when you first get introduced to her. Bruce just kind of swoops in and commits a robbery. But, I can't really say much about her. She's very assertive. Like, she was kind of onto Dr. Crane's bullshit. And, she went to investigate, and it kind of got her in trouble. But, she's always kind of on to people, and, she's kind of a detective herself, and I like that. Now let's talk about Dr. Crane, or the Scarecrow, in this film. Now, I was slightly let down with Scarecrow. Now, granted, I think Cillian Murphy's a great actor. It's just, Scarecrow's my favorite Batman villain, so I'm gonna judge him a little more harshly. I didn't like the idea of Scarecrow being Ra's al Ghul's pawn, and to be honest, I really didn't find his design all that more scary. My personal favorite design of the Scarecrow is from The New Adventures of Batman, the cartoon that ran in the 90s. Check him out. Now that Scarecrow is scary because he looked like he was literally, a hangman that was cut down, and, wow, he was scary, and his voice was even scarier. It was perfect. Now, anyway, back to Batman Begins. Dr. Crane first makes his first appearance in the movie, where he's in trial with Zsasz. Zsasz makes a cameo. If you guys aren't familiar with the comics, you might recognize his Arkham City counterpart. Now, as the Scarecrow, Crane's first target was Falcone, because Falcone threatened to, jeopardize the whole plan that Ra's al Ghul was going to unleash. So he gassed him and basically sent him into a Scarecrow panic. Then we get to see Scarecrow again, as when Batman is investigating the bears that have the drugs stashed inside of him. And, Scarecrow and his men are in the room, and I really like that fight. It's really short, but I like it because you see Scarecrow gas Batman, and then, Batman is, sees Scarecrow, bats are, climbing out of his mouth. It's freaking crazy. That's what I really like about Scarecrow in this film. Scarecrow, they really had a good, they depicted that, instead of getting gassed and Batman, seeing a giant bat fly in or something that isn't there, they're all, distortions off Scarecrow. So, Batman saw bats climbing out of Scarecrow's mouth. Rachel saw maggots crawling out of his mask. Now, the only thing I question is, at one point, Scarecrow got gassed, because Batman, grabbed his hand and gassed his own face. And Scarecrow saw, this bat demon thing the only reason I question this is because in the comics, the only thing Scarecrow's afraid of is Batman. So, wouldn't he just see, you know, Batman for what he is? I mean, I don't really think, like, why would Batman's face change if what he fears is already in front of him? You know, whatever. But, you know, I don't hate it. It's just kind of like, it's kind of weird to me. I did not like how Scarecrow got taken out in this movie. He got tased by Rachel. Again, you know, it shows how much of a badass Rachel is in this film. But, kind of like, I don't know, Scarecrow's kind of built up in this film to be like this, you know, this tough force, and he just gets, like, tased. And that's the last you see of him until the next film. So, it's just kind of like, well, damn, Rachel, did you really have to go and do that to him? Like, come on. But, when it comes to that whole ending scene, you know, Ra's al Ghul unleashes the fear toxin on the city, and I love this because everyone goes crazy, everyone indeed, and it just goes back to what I was saying, Gotham is like this hopeless, disgusting place. You know, the civilians are scared, the criminals are scared, everyone's turning on each other, everyone's going nuts. I love this one scene where Batman is like gliding above everybody, and you know, we see Batman, but what they see is like this giant demon with like red eyes. It's really cool. And you know, amidst all this happening, at one point you see Rachel and Batman have this one scene, and you know, Rachel's kind of like, well, who are you? And then, you know, Batman drops the whole, you know, it's not who I am underneath, it's what I do that defines me. Which, might I add, you know that whole Batman Christian Bale growl everyone makes fun of? In this film, it's actually tolerable. Like, it's not over the top, it's not, like, you know, I could tolerate it in this film, so. But, then Batman and Ra's al Ghul have one last fight on the train, heading towards Gotham, or, I think it's called Gotham Towers, or Wayne Towers, I think it's called. The tower that Bruce's father built, and I really like this because this connects. This connects to multiple parts in the film. It connects to Bruce training with Ra's al Ghul. He uses some of that training against him, and it also connects back to the flashbacks where Bruce was a child going on the train towards the city. So it's kind of like this last scene kind of hooks back to the movie in multiple ways, and train crashes, gas gets dispersed, all's well and good. At one point, Bruce burnt his house down, his mansion down, just to rebuild it. And, so now let me just backtrack for a second. I was just thinking, because, there's one scene where Gordon has to drive the Batmobile because Bruce is busy with Ra's, and a lot of people complain about the Batmobile in this film, and I'm not necessarily sure why. I think they complain because it's bulky. Now, as we know, the Batmobile in this film looks like this. I suppose people complain because, it looks kind of like a miniature tank or something. I guess because it's like bulky or something, but I mean, Batman's never ever driven a bulky Batmobile before. Well, Batman's never drove a tank before. I guess he has. Anyway, this film ends on a really cool and high note where, Gordon calls Batman on the bat signal, which is, newly made, and he gives Batman the calling card of his newest opponent. Everyone in the theater knew that shit was about to go down. But anyway, I think that ends this review. Be sure to come back for the next one, which is going to be on the next in the trilogy, The Dark Knight. And until next time, guys, this was Dark Inception. Thank you for watching.